We had it right, y'all. We had everything we predicted was gonna happen, happened. And today, we finna talk about it. So jump through the intro. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Collard Greens and Nerdy Things, your favorite one-stop shop for all things nerdy. I am your host, King, and this is the greatest co-host in New York City, JC3. And today we're back at it with another episode of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 5. And like as always, if you like this kind of stuff, if you like talking about nerdy material, you want to talk more about Marvel and DC and some of the upcoming projects, or deep dive into a subject we're talking about, join us. Give us a like, give us a share, drop a comment, give us a follow. We love to see you there, and we love talking a whole bunch of nerd stuff. So, with all that being said, housekeeping's out of the way. Let's get into the episode. So let me kick it off with a little bit of what happened. We open up our episode today with Vanessa being rushed into the hospital into critical condition, which sets the tone for what is going to happen throughout this entire episode. So Jay, kick us off with your thoughts about what happens in the beginning of this episode.
Oh, bruh. Well, just from the start of the episode, like we get the opening title sequence like right at the start, which let me know that whatever was going to happen in this episode, at the end, it was probably going to hit us pretty hard, which it did. But yeah, we start off with Vanessa getting rushed into the ER. Fisk is, losing his mind, just completely out of his way, just trying to figure out what anything that he can do to help. But of course, he can't do anything. We also kind of take a step back from the action in the show just to kind of focus more on the characters that we're dealing with right now. We get some great moments with Daredevil and Bullseye. And surprisingly enough, we get a lot of flashbacks in this episode that kind of bring us back to the Netflix era of the Daredevil series, which I really appreciated. Get two surprise characters coming back, with that being Foggy and I believe Wesley as well, who got killed off in the first season of Daredevil. So it was nice to see him again. Some really good moments in this show, man. It was great to see Foggy back and also get a more of a better understanding for why Matt operates the way that he does, why he's not as quick to let Bullseye die even after he's killed Foggy, because even his best friend Foggy always had the mindset of, hey, we're here to give people a second chance, and he's carried that on and then to the present day.
The redemption seems to be kind of the theme of this. It's definitely shown through these flashbacks. Excuse me. We're getting a lot of flashbacks in this episode from the A and B story. The A story in this one is definitely more of the Fisk and Vanessa and her having surgery, essentially being in a coma and having this flashback of when she worked at the art museum and when she first met Fisk. And it was good to see his assistant. It's too bad that he's gone. But it took me a moment for a second when they were in the back of that car. They're going back and forth so much between these flashbacks to real time that sometimes you didn't know that we were in a flashback. But we got some interesting things out of these flashbacks of them talking about what they were going to do with Fist's money and how they're going to get all this crime money and funnel it. And his assistant had the idea, put it into art, which is something real criminals do because art holds its value and can get more value over time. So genius thought. And then, of course, who's working at the gallery? Vanessa, of course. And interestingly enough, in her flashback, she's talking to them about, I forgot the name of the painting. I think it's like Rabbit in the Snow or something like that. And she's talking to her boss about putting that out, and everyone's saying no, like we're about making money and not just an art collective. But we know she's right. Somebody will buy this and for more money than it's possibly worth.
Yep, and they will also, and I think she said they'll see themselves in the painting. Which, as we saw from previously in the show, Fisk stood in front of that painting for a very long time because he felt like he could relate to it. We had a whole episode of him looking at that painting, and we find out why he's just stuck on it because it goes all the way back to his childhood. So really great tie-in, just with those flashbacks. I also loved how this show really just questions like the morality of a person, specifically between Matt and Foggy when they're trying to decide how to deal with the new case that they have with the client that they're defending. Matt's whole perspective of it is, hey, this guy, kind of had it coming, so let's just send him on to jail, let him serve his time. Whereas Foggy's on the side of, hey, if this guy goes to jail, he's not going to get out in a few years. There's some guys on the inside that are going to take him out within 24 hours. So, are we really doing the right thing here? And for it to come from Foggy is crazy just because this is the same guy that bullied him before. So for him to have that mindset, it kind of just really makes you see why Foggy was so important in the show and also why him and Matt were such best friends. Also, another great point in the show for me would be just again the dynamic between Bullseye and Matt. Uh, Bullseye just trying to egg Matt on in a way, just trying to get Matt to leave him because Bullseye's mindset is nobody could change. Like nobody really deserves a second chance. And for that to be brought right back around with Matt refusing to leave Bullseye, it just spoke volumes for me.
And I want to drop this in here now because Jay, you absolutely had this right. And Bullseye says it out of his mouth. You predicted in our last podcast that the reason why he might be doing this is because he feels like it's an eye for an eye. He killed Foggy, so he needs to kill Vanessa so that it's an eye for an eye, making things right. Since he did not want to necessarily kill that person, it's his job and he's kind of crazy. So he'll do it. So that is one for the books that Jay was 100% right about before we even saw the episode. And Foggy, or excuse me, and Bullseye says it out of his own mouth that he felt like it was an eye for an eye. And I love the idea of the backdrop of the conflict between them in that hallway is in the back hallways of the church where they both sought redemption for their own sins, for the things that they have done. And Bullseye is very aware that he is a murderer and a problematic person, but he is the weapon and he knows this. It was great. The thing that we see in the flashbacks that kind of pointed out, as you mentioned earlier, was Foggy was really the voice of reason when it came to how they were going to help this person out in the trial and whether he was guilty or not. Matt was kind of looking at his past deeds and looking at him like, he's done so many bad things. He pretty much deserves this. But Foggy thinks everyone deserves redemption or a second chance. And Foggy even got their money that they were saving to have their own law firm and gave it to him so that once they found the information that he could get acquitted because they ended up raiding the wrong house and got the wrong information on the police side, that he got off scot-free. That was amazing.
No, that was great. That was a great moment for the character Foggy. Really enjoyed that. Also, just love Matt's reaction because he just told Foggy, he's like, "Hey, I know you. I knew what you were doing the whole time." But just for them to have that moment, it really just brings you back to how great their friendship was back in all the way back in the show. And also, it just makes you miss Foggy, even more, man. I will say in those flashbacks, what one little nitpick, I think we all know that that was a wig on Charlie Cox's, head, just, because this is all the way back from a few years ago, but it's all good. It's fine. I chuckled a couple times, but overall, I did enjoy those scenes. It was also a nice little tie-in the flashbacks as well, finding out that uh, Wilson Fisk's right hand man at the time, Wesley, he was the one that ended up hiring Buck to take out the guy that Foggy had just let go. So that was a nice little tie in as well that I appreciated.
One thing that I did notice in that, or noticed when I watched the flashback, they were initially going to call it Murdoch and Nelson. And it was Matt's idea to call it Nelson and Murdoch. because after what would happen, he realized his friend deserved that credit and he won that case. And they went to go
Yeah.
celebrate at their favorite bar as they always did. Let's not bury the lead. There was one big thing that happened in this episode that I told you guys in our last episode that if this happens, it will set Fisk on a tirade. And we know that things only get deeper, especially going into Daredevil season 3. We know we have the whole Defenders team. We know that things are ratcheting up. So something at the end of this current season we're watching has to go bad or doesn't go the way we think. And one of those things has already started because Vanessa wakes up and she's having this great conversation with Fisk. And the one time we actually see Fisk nervous, emotional, almost in tears, he's helping, he's on hand and foot trying to do whatever he can to make her feel comfortable because in his heart he doesn't want to lose her, and he's trying to remind her of how much he loves her. And in the end, she goes into cardiac arrest, and we lose Vanessa, y'all. Vanessa is gone. And now the Fisk that we get will no longer be Wilson Fisk. It will just be the Kingpin.
Oh man, that scene that they had in the hospital room where Wilson Fisk is just broken down to just a bare man that wants his wife to survive. You could see the emotion in his face, and just I was looking out for a tear. I think I might have seen one. I don't know. He was just helpless at the time, trying to help her, and for him to you could tell kind of that you could tell there was a bit of worry even after the procedure, just because she had asked for pineapple juice, and you could tell by the look on his face. He's like, "Wait, that's off. That's off. You don't like pineapple juice. It makes your lips tingle." So from there, you already know that something's going wrong. But the moment that she asked Fisk to tell her the story of how they met, that's kind of how I instantly knew that, yeah, she's probably gonna, pass away after this. But for them to have that final moment, that final shot with him being in front of that painting as she's walking up to him for the first time, that was poetic, but that was also sad, just because right afterwards you see just him screaming in pain and agony at the fact that we all know now that Vanessa's gone from the show, y'all. And as my man King said, we're not going to get Wilson Fisk anymore. We're going to get the Kingpin, and I can't even imagine what that means for the people of New York, what that means for Bullseye, and what that means for Daredevil.
He will 100% be on a rampage. I expect in the next few episodes that the anti-vigilante task force is going to ratchet up. He is going to get crazier and more unhinged. It was really sad to see how emotional he really was. And it was nice to see because we got to see Wilson Fisk with his guard down. We don't get to see that character very often with his guard down and to kind of feel like a little kid. And he was emotional. He lost his world. And now that that's gone, nothing will stop him being the person that he's going to be. And that shit's going to be crazy. Excuse my French toast, y'all, but that shit's going to be crazy. Let me do my final thoughts here and then we'll take it on home today. For me, this was a little bit less than yesterday. I would say this is probably like a 7.5. It's a good episode. It was a calmer episode, not very action heavy, very people and dialogue heavy with some kind of sad notes, some redemption. But we also got to see some characters we haven't got to see in a while, i.e., Foggy. So I'm very pleased. I'm very happy. So far, this show is incredible. And I love that Marvel's allowing the show to be as dark as it should be and have the show take on the tones that it really needs for the Daredevil character.
Man, I got to second that, King. I really loved the episode. I would say I give it maybe a point higher than you. I gave it about an 8 out of 10. Like I said, we did we left the action scenes in this episode just to focus on our characters, but at the same time, I felt like that was a benefit for the episode as well. It's because a lot of times we question why heroes operate the way they operate. Like, why are you still trying to save this person this villain who's caused you so much pain. And this episode kind of encapsulates that in, yeah, like we can look at it as eye for an eye, you know, or we can just go the foggy route and just focus on mercy, you know, and giving people a second chance, which ultimately is what a hero should always do. And ultimately, that's what Daredevil did in this episode by still deciding to say bullseye after all the chaos that he's caused. So I really love this episode. 8 out of 10 for me. Question I have for you, the audience here: anybody think that we might have seen Claire pop up in this episode? Because Matt did make mention that he knew a nurse, and I was kind of getting excited that we're going to get to see Rosario Dawson reprise her role again. Maybe, maybe one day we can get it. Maybe one day, because we love Rosario Dawson. I love Rosario Dawson. But that's my question for you guys. Thank you guys for watching this. Please like, share, subscribe. You guys know how we do it. Till next time in Hell's Kitchen, stay nerdy, my friends.